Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be speaking about 10 tests and red team. It's a topic which we could not get around at such event as a standoff. Therefore, today I was joined by our colleagues, Sergey Amarov, and we decided to speak about what is pen test, how is it changing within these years, and how did it change within recent 6 months, maybe a little bit more? What challenges do we have from this point of view? And the first thing that I would like to speak about and what I would like to understand is there a high demand for regular classical pen test that we know in the course of last several years. Things that we see as a positive technologies on the side of our clients, we see less and less requests for it. And right now we see the answer to the question whether it is possible to break into a company. Like 5-10 years ago, people were coming to us with this request. Nobody's interested. Everybody knows the answer to this question, but nevertheless, pen testers are still here and we still have a lot of work. So we do have questions like that coming to us. What is interesting to our clients? Our clients are interested, how can we improve ourselves? What can we do to become even more secure? So what about the situation in your companies? Well, classical pen test is less and less interesting. For me, pen test as an extreme level of defense analysis, this is something about surprising the client. For example, if you inform the client about facts which are known to him, you didn't do your work pretty well. And 1 second about advertising, thanks to Standoff for allowing us to launch, together with the main activity, a small CTF about DeFi, and you will see the QR code. You can go and break the same, like cryptocurrencies and smart contracts. And sitting next to Omar, I couldn't go without speaking about it. But classical pen test, when the client should see that there's a backdoor and you can break your company this and that way, it doesn't have such a meaning like it was 5 or 10 years ago. That's why specialists, they should requalify themselves in order to keep this wow effect, this novelty effect. We should bring it to the client so that it should be a new outlook at their security, which would bring certain actions and not, okay, we're going to close this gap. We knew about this hole, but we just didn't think about it. But what about the tools? Many people are used to work with a lot of commercial scanners, non-commercial scanners, which can be used to search vulnerabilities. But if it's more and more difficult to surprise the client, how the expertise is being developed from the point of view of development of the tools. For example, we have a separate team which does exploit development. It's a big research center. In order to continue this wow effect, we look at all the adequate teams and they all are coming to this. So the cost of work, the cost of this work is growing just due to the fact that you have additional labor expenses, not for the specific project, but labor expenses which you spend for preparation. And this is not classical ascent, like we say it from our side, but this is a big research operation which has to be conducted prior to. Umar? Honestly speaking, trends are much wider than just about achievement of pen tests. It's much wider because to achieve the goal in the red teams when on the other side of the pen testers, it's not just non-mature organization but a full-scale SOC team together with hackers that been working as pen testers previously, and they understand tactics and techniques. It's a totally different, and you have to improve your tool set. And right now in the market, many teams are opening positions for R&D, for the development of the software to automate certain pen testing objectives in order to be more effective in neutralizing monitoring and security forces by red teams. Also, I would like to add to this that in addition, well, in a pen test, clients are more wise. They don't just want to have their perimeter being breaking through, but they want to see inadmissible events. And in security analysis, clients are more skeptical to the results, which are just list of vulnerabilities. They look at the coverage. They don't just want to understand that 10 vulnerabilities were discovered, but they have covered completely the whole API or the infrastructure was completely covered. And all the checks have been conducted and not just discovered 10 vulnerabilities and went to rest. Right now, we see that the level of maturity, not just in technologies and employees, but also on the side of the business, because a business started asking proper questions. What do I defend and what am I defending it from? So when we come to the situation, like formulating inadmissible event, it's very difficult to formulate an admissible event without understanding the nature of your own business, without understanding what is so valuable for you as a defense team and as the owner of the business in the organization responsible for its normal functioning. Many people see this as a problem. In the current situation, we started thinking about more fundamental things, not just saying that, well, there are best practices in the best houses, they do it this way, so let's do it the same way. No, we see deficit of resources, including human resources. We cannot hire that many people as we wanted before. That's why we should start thinking and look at our time more economically and to our efforts that we apply to defend something. If you have a necessary server with vulnerabilities, well, roughly speaking, it's not a big problem. But the big problem if this will stop your business processes, critical business processes. So, for me, Decree 250, which have raised a wave for big organizations that it is necessary to answer those questions, and it has increased the degree up to the level of deputy CEO of the company and not just on the level of the security or IT guys who previously wanted to do something to this. So this is a big goodness to all of us because at least things that we have achieved as the industry, it has been legalized. We do understand that there is not just PCI DSS with some minimal requirements, but everybody admit, even on the level of the state, they admit to the necessity and increase of the maturity of our industry in general. You see, you verbalize an interesting topic about priorities and careful attention to resources. Because with limited time, budget, and headcount, you cannot do something big. So I've transferred all of this to myself. And I think that same security analysis specialist, it's the resource of the company that you have to hire. And I would like to share here, well, everybody will share with very hateful situations which happened between me and clients. The first one is like, break me as a hacker. And when you say, okay, dear client, we understand, how can we break you? We can break you here, 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 and you shouldn't break it. But they say, no, full black box, everything should be in a limited period of time. And the second thing, they start to reduce the scope. No social, no Telegram, not this, not that, this is not ours, this is not theirs, but this is a contract directly associated with the client. And this is our top managers, don't go into their accounts. And we will have freeze because right now we have important board of directors, so please don't do that, don't touch that, but break me as hackers with no limitations. But what is the sense then? You're putting just a check mark that we went through a pen test which gives no results. Yeah, this situation triggers me as well. Not just because we are limited and they don't let us work. Yes, I understand that most of these limitations are justified by something, but I'm afraid that some of the clients will leave after this work of protecting false security because you were not able. But it doesn't mean that everything is good. Well, for example, you have found a certain old server. It was in the perimeter. Well, doesn't work. doesn't work, it's not a wow effect. We are friends, but if it's not a wow effect, our objective is to make it better. Once again, not surprise. This is not our objective to surprise. The novelty feeling will leave. The main objective is to bring goodness, to give usefulness, to find places where we can apply efforts and find these growth points from the point of view of improving this security. And this is important for the mature companies which have this basic level and they understand it and they start playing those things. However, the question is about target setting, goal setting. Yeah. The topic to this comment, this year we paid attention to the fact that clients who became mature for these full-scale pen tests and simulations of the actions of red teaming and pen testers, this year they will reformat themselves due to a growing number of real incidents and due to overload of SOC and security teams. So they will reformat it from pure red team into a kind of a mixed team. And we are modeling the same format, but starting not from the black box, but starting from some insights, access to internal perimeters, or maybe some external access to contractors, not one client, but more than that. So this is a trend that we see right now, because for them, irrespectively to usefulness of red teaming, this is a physical overload, and people who work in SOC, they may not be able to cope with this. Let's imagine another situation. Well, this is a wise approach. When company does understand that, yes, we can be penetrated through social networks to the perimeter, through the Wi-Fi, anything, but my objective is not to remove the possibility of attack, not to build the biggest fence and somebody will be able to jump over it. But, from this jump over the fence and to have real damage to the company, we should have the longest way. And when they understand the groups of threats, contractor, internal host, admins, I have a trusted admin, what should I do with him? And depending on this, together with the pen tester, practically we model the chains of attacks of a threat. We can focus on extending the pathway of the fraudster from jumping over the fence to, well, the company have been shut down, we've lost millions of dollars. And this is mature, significantly mature, much more mature. Yeah, we are trying to convey this in the first line, but historically, especially in a big business, it's a big problem when you have a big number of users and principally you have big number of people inside. An internal person is not considered to be trustworthy. If previously they have been understanding that there's insider, which cannot be purchased. Well, anybody can be purchased, or the person decided by himself, or he became the victim of social. The most difficult is to start reacting from within. And right now we see a demand from outside just because everybody clearly understands that the main criminal who's going to work, he's going to work from outside, and people are less afraid of insiders and they want to look from outside. And very often we're able to see, especially in recent days, there were precedents like somebody already have passed previously, and there was a lot of situations when some vector of attack has been completed and we see the traces. So in your work, have you seen things like that? Because you're not the first ones here. That you were not the first ones here. Well, it's an everlasting question that I'm asking in the last 20 years. Oh my God, I'm so old. Well, the criminal who is sitting in a workstation through the legal VPN, is it insider or the outsider? And stories like that are happening all the time. Password leakages, spear phishing. It's a good vector for target attacks. That's why, yes, perimeter should be the border. This is your control border, but it shouldn't be the only border of control, because in any more or less big organization, perimeter is getting diluted cloud access, distributed perimeter, full remote, everything. It's not available. So coming from the assumption that enemy is inside and you should adequately react to this and detect it adequately and help to the blue team to timely discover it. This is something that you should look at, but it does not exclude everything else. Well, the WAVs are not going to be installed, perimeter is not going to be patched, it should be going down to the school level. Well, it just allows you to check more, because very often this is a hybrid model. When the first month, 2, 3, the attacker team tries external vectors, and earlier or later they discover it in a good situation for the client, for the blue team, and it happens that every time we as red team, we go back to the initial point. Yes, I understand with some clauses, but if they've discovered our vector, if we've been thrown away from the infrastructure, we start from the scratch, and it happens that commercial resource and financial resource of the project is limited. We start this project from the scratch. In this situation, it makes sense to create a certain checkpoint that, yes, we already have entered infrastructure, and right now we continue working from within as we have penetrated it with another vector or something like that. How much time you take for a good quality red team? If it's a big organization, if it's a top 20 organization, from 3 months. There might be no upper limitation, but from the bottom, 3 months, it's a psychological threshold, I think. Periodically, I've been speaking about this idea. When we've been those small boys and been doing pen tests in Russia when it was really cool, we've been in some information vacuum, and we've been doing pen tests according to our rules. First days, 0 days, ban, social, infiltration, with all these things together. But when we started doing pen tests abroad, in the West, we have understood that it's much simpler. Things that we call instrumentary pen testing, like medium pen tester, NASA, something else, a web, we have launched some other things, and it reminds me a story about how the karate school was built on American movies. People didn't guess that these hits were done with 3 frames, and but you know, this double hit from above, they thought, and we've learned to do it. And this is how we've learned to do the pen tests. And right now, Red Team in Russia, it's different, because the red team that you're speaking about, it's like break me as a hacker, as you would break a hacker. But the main objective is to get together with the blue team so that you would have a constant exercise, that blue teamers can miss something. They may not be so attentive to monitoring, and your main objective is to ideally update some internal system which automatically does the attacks and improves your blue team, makes it more alert by adding new scenarios, and not every time pulling the perimeter attacks. But will there be some kind of getting used to this on the side of the blue team, because it's been broken in a similar way, and they kind of get used to, and they are tuning up for this? It can be solved by the question of automatization. If you have standard incidents which are leading to nothing, you just have to ignore them or process them in a standard way. You shouldn't use the people, but the red teamer is to wake you up so that blue teamer wouldn't understand where this incident came from. I think what Sergey is talking about, it's done by internal red teamers who are the part of the staff. And in order to avoid similar vectors, they hire different red teamers from outside. Well, this objective is solved because we change our teams from within, independent ones. But generally speaking, I think this is a very good trend that blue team understands the value of the red team, and red team understands why this work is being done. And this is not a main goal to break the client, not the main goal to go to the inaccessible event. The main goal is to help the blue team to increase the visibility in the infrastructure, to increase his speed of reaction and understanding how they will act if this situation will be repeated. Vulnerabilities will be different, but the logic will pertain to be the same, because something that is inaccessible for his business will be the same thing. And to my point of view, I really like what really happens with the industry. Classical pen testing is dying, but it's been reborn into something more interesting, something more complicated. And this is something that looks like more adequate. And our actions, our work that is being done, it's not being done just to be hidden in table. It becomes valuable for the clients, and it brings big benefits, to my point of view. I agree. Sometimes it's very nice to see that client is not so surprised by our gap, but have been able to see us in the process. I'm not speaking just about the red team. I'm speaking about regular pen tests. Usually, client has SOC, usually they have monitoring, and they see everything, and they can show us. Well, our time is running out. We can talk a lot about red team and pen testing. Thank you very much for finding this time. Thank you very much for coming here. Thank you. What about the Decree 250? As if it never was published. Goodbye.